So today is April 7th, 2020, and I'm out for a hike close to where I live. I thought I'd practice some social distancing while also going outside and getting some exercise, because lately I've been staying inside a lot and that ain't good. So I've been looking at the news a lot lately, and I've noticed that Japan seems to have quite a low number of people who have coronavirus. And I was starting to think about why that could be. And one of the reasons that I came across is likely because people don't tend to socialize in Japan. If you're on the train, if you cross paths with people, you don't usually tend to talk with people that you don't know. And without that socialization, there's less chances that you will pass on the virus from one person to another. Another reason is that I think that people don't pass on the coronavirus because, for one, they wear masks. In Japan, it's sort of common practice to be wearing these disposable masks sometimes throughout the year. It's sometimes used for allergies, sometimes for colds, influenza, and right now for the coronavirus. So according to the latest news, the Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe, will declare a state of emergency in certain prefectures. That's of April 7th, 2020. So how has that affected life here in Japan? Well, hold on a sec. Alright, sorry about that. There was a huge gust of wind as I was cresting the hill, but hopefully you can hear me okay right now. So how has it had an impact on life here in Japan? And to be honest, it hasn't had a huge impact. There was a moment in which there was a lack of toilet paper, and because people were panic buying it. Right now there seems to be a shortage of masks, which is a major concern because right now it's allergy season. Lots of people need it for that, and they also need it for just the cold and flu and all that stuff as well. So that seems to be a little bit of a problem, but to be honest, where I'm living, out in Sendai, which is in northern Japan in Tohoku, there hasn't been a lot of cases at the moment. Keep in mind it's still only April 7th, so things could change, but at the moment it hasn't had a huge impact on daily life. I've been following a lot of Canadian American news recently, and I know that the situation there is quite a bit worse than it is here. I feel fortunate to be in Japan right now because, like I said, life hasn't changed too much. Potentially the gyms might close, but that's about it. So how has schools been affected by the coronavirus? Well, schools in Sendai have been closed for about a month now. We had the graduation ceremony a little while back, but we weren't able to invite any family members or community members who usually come and attend. We will have the entrance ceremony in next week, but for that I think we also won't be able to invite any family members or community members to that as well. For daily life, it seems that there will be a few changes. For example, school lunch, usually kids would arrange their desks so that they're facing one another in small islands or groups so they can talk to one another, but I don't think that will be possible. Also, there will be a lot more cleaning of surfaces, such as the bathroom and other areas that people often touch. And there will be a lot more opening of windows to get more fresh air into the classroom. Some of the other changes are that there will be cancellation of many big fun school events, like the sports day, the culture festival, and even things like school trips and field trips will all be cancelled, which is unfortunate to the students because those are the things that you really look forward to, especially for the graduating class this year. So one thing I forgot to mention is club activities. From my understanding, there will still be club activities after school and perhaps on weekends. The big difference is, though, that the major competitions have been cancelled. There's usually a summer and fall competition, a tournament that they have here in Sendai. Also, all the practice matches between schools have also been cancelled, which is quite unfortunate because Club activities, usually kids are quite competitive. Kids want to make sure that they do really well for these upcoming tournaments. But without them, these club activities will become more like recreational activities or practice for them for when they go to high school if they want to continue. So I was thinking about what are the implications for us as ALTs. One thing is that I think masks will be mandatory from now on, which will make it difficult for students. I think a lot of students get visual cues of how to pronounce words by looking at our mouth shape. But perhaps there will be exceptions where we can take off the masks just for when we pronounce words, but that will be a change. Another thing I think will be that there will be less communication activities, less pair work and group work, which is unfortunate because I really love that, running that type of activity. Another thing is I don't think ALTs will be sitting with kids for kyushoku anymore, for school lunch, given that students will have to be facing forward anyway and not being allowed to talk. I think it's kind of ironic that one of the best things I thought about being an ALT is that we have this ability to connect the community. We often work at elementary schools which feed into the junior high schools, so that we have a wide connection with many students and many people in our community. But that in this pandemic, in this crisis, is probably one of the worst things, because when we go from school to school, we have the potential to pass on this virus, if we contract it, to other students, to so many other students. So I know that a lot of ALTs recently have been breaking contract and going back home, which is fine because I know that everyone has their reasons for doing that. Perhaps they feel unsafe here in Japan. Perhaps they are looking out for a loved one, someone back home who they might lose. So I know everyone has their reasons, but just think about the effects that you have once you leave. The schools have to scramble to find an ALT replacement, someone to do the work that you were doing before. That usually means a different ALT has to either take over more schools or just has to change schools. So that puts kind of a strain on the rest of the ALT community and the Board of Education. So just take that into consideration before you make that decision. And I know it's not an easy decision, so it's not like I'm blaming you or anything if you do happen to leave, because, you know, everyone has their own circumstances, but just consider that before you make that decision. For those ALTs who do happen to stay in Japan, I think now more than ever is extremely important for us to find constructive hobbies. I know that sometimes it's easy to just go home and watch TV or play video games. And not like those things are bad things, but I think that they should be enjoyed in moderation. And I know sometimes we can have this feeling of helplessness and loneliness in situations like this, when the world around us seems to be in such bad circumstances. But I think that this time that we've been given, we can use it to be creative. We can explore. We can find new hobbies, things that we've never done before. For example, my friend of mine, he showed me the beauty of the nature right close to home. Usually I would have to go really far out to enjoy the nature, but I didn't realize that we had this beautiful nature right outside our doorstep. So that's one new thing I've been doing. But I think for everyone, it's really important. Perhaps it could just be reading a book. It could be listening to music, maybe creating music, creating art, meditating, exercising. There's so many things that you could be doing with your extra time. When you think of it as free time, maybe sometimes we'll take it for granted and we'll waste it, but now is an opportunity more than ever to make ourselves better. Think of 2020 as a year of reflection and self-development, a year in which we can make ourselves better. And lastly, for prospective ALTs, I think that if you're interested in working in Japan, you like Japanese culture, history, or just love to travel, and you're also interested in teaching and working with students and making an impact and a difference on their lives, I definitely urge you to apply to being an ALT. It's been an amazing opportunity being on the JET program, and it's definitely something that I won't forget for the rest of my life. So once this is all over with, once this pandemic has settled down, I highly recommend coming to Japan and working as an ALT. Goodbye everyone. Thank you for watching, and I don't know when the next adventure will be, but I'll see you next time.